afternoon and welcome to everyone to Sun Health Center for Health and Wellbeing. Today it is my honor to be here with all of you talking about kale. Now, to me, kale is king. Kale is an enormously healthy food, and I have to tell you, I love it. And I hope that for those of you who have eaten kale before, you get some new ideas on ways to prepare it. And for those of you who have not had an opportunity to have kale before, I hope that you get some different interesting ideas and maybe in some way start to enjoy kale. I know some people kind of turn their nose to it, and I think some of that is because they haven't had it prepared in a variety of ways. So that is my hope today, that you will be able to experience kale a few different ways and that you start to incorporate it into your general routine. My name is Tracy Garrett, and I am a registered dietitian and certified diabetes educator here at our center. And today I have somebody assisting me, and
Susan Welter, and I'm also a registered dietitian and certified diabetes educator here at the center.
Yes. So today we're going to start talking about the basics of kale. And first of all, let me ask you, is there anyone in this room who has never had kale before? A couple people. All right. And in this room, are there people who eat kale very frequently? Say once a week or more. All right. Very, very good. And how do you like to prepare your kale? What things do you do with your kale?
Smoothie. First I wash it and chop it, and I add a tablespoon of olive oil and a quarter teaspoon of kosher salt. Mix together, put it in a 350 oven, and it comes out crisp. I eat it like a potato chip instead of a potato chip.
Very good. What she said is she makes kale chips with those. Has anyone else here made a kale chip? Okay, very good. I have made kale chips. What I have learned is that the kale needs to be very dry before you put the oil on, or else the kale will kind of steam versus getting crispy. I love the idea of making kale chips. And somebody else I saw hand, yes?
We saute some mushrooms and onions with olive oil, garlic, and then we add the kale after it's boiled, and it makes a very nice saute, and you also can do it as a saute with chicken and things like that.
Very good. I love that idea. He was talking about sauteing the garlic and adding the kale, and we're going to do something similar to that today. So I am very glad to hear that you are all experimenting with kale. Now, one of the things about kale that is very interesting, has a wide variety of nutrients, and that's what is very important. When we talk about kale, kale is low in calories. And that can be important for individuals who are interested in maintaining a healthy weight. But with those low calories, it is nutrient dense, which means it has a lot of nutrients, and those are disease-fighting nutrients, and that's really what we want into our bodies. You were provided a handout when you came today, and it talks about kale and the general information in kale, and it talks about some of the ways that we can prepare it. And the smoothies, the chips, the sauteed, the salads, in casseroles, in dips, many different ways. Very, very versatile type of food item to have into your diet there. So when we talk about further the nutritional quality of kale, we see that kale has 0 grams of fat. We see that kale is very low in sodium. For those individuals who are watching their sodium levels, that kale is low in carbohydrate. So for those individuals who have diabetes and are working to manage their diabetes, which is one of the things that Susan and I really have a passion for, and we teach diabetes self-management classes here, is that we want to find those foods that are lower in carbohydrate. It contains fiber. And fiber is very important to our overall sense of health and well-being, and it has some protein in it. So again, a really nice composition. And it also has a variety of other nutrients. It has calcium, iron, potassium, magnesium, vitamin C, vitamin A, vitamin K. And kale is classified as a cruciferous vegetable. And for those of you who are familiar with cruciferous vegetables, there are lots of health benefits that they have done research in. And we think about decline in potential cancer incidence with the cruciferous vegetables. So some of the potential benefits of adding that kale into your diet on a regular routine is that it may reduce the risk of cataracts and macular degeneration. That's a positive. That's a benefit. It's good for the eyes. Also, it may increase the production of collagen for the joints. That's a positive thing. It is good for protecting the skin against sun damage, and is actually, some of the components that it contains are included in the hair and the nails and the skin. And if you haven't noticed, we are over 100 degrees these days here in Arizona. And so consuming kale is one of those things that can really be beneficial to us. Also, as we look at kale, we see that it can potentially reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease. And cardiovascular disease is the #1 cause of death in America, as well as a lot of the other countries. And people always say, I don't want to take another medication. And sometimes we need to take medications, but if there's things that we can do that are natural and that can help, and kale can have some benefit in that. And part of that is it can assist in lowering the blood pressure potentially, also reduces risk of inflammation. Reducing inflammation is very important. Also, it can aid in our memory. And I read in one document that was from a neurologist who was a researcher. He said, eat leafy green vegetables every single day. And I see some noddings with this. So kale, again, would fit into that category as well. And so we see lots of positive things that we often think about, but did you know that some of the components that are in kale can help with memory, potentially, and they can help with mood? So if somebody says, hey, I'd like to make you a kale salad, maybe we need to be cheered up a little bit. So lots and lots of benefits with kale. And again, what we want to do is we want to think about food as function. When we choose a food, oftentimes, why do we choose a certain food? What drives us to choose a food?
Taste.
The taste. Convenience. Health. That's what we want to do. We want to look at our plate and choose the foods based on what will this do to my body and what will the outcome be. So we need to choose wisely, definitely. So, Susan, I have a question for you. What should we do when the going gets tough?
Eat more fiber.
Eat more fiber, absolutely. And you know, we kind of joke around about that, but fiber is something that is important for all areas of health and well-being when we talk about our bodies. And kale does contain fiber. It's, again, beneficial, the fiber, for the digestion, for blood pressure, for cholesterol levels, for blood sugar, and potentially reducing some risk of cancers. So it's very, very important. And what we will see is the other foods that we have added along with the kale today, they also contain a good amount of fiber. So that's very beneficial. So the general recommendation for fiber for a healthy individual is based on gender, and age. So we look at females, and a female who is 50 and younger, their recommendation for fiber would be about 25 grams of fiber per day. When we look at a female who is 50 and older, it decreases to about 21 grams of fiber per day. When we look at a male who's 50 and younger, the recommendation is about 38 grams of fiber per day. That can be very difficult to get. Now, for a gentleman who is 50 or older, that decreases to about 30 grams of fiber per day. And the differences are really because the amount of fiber that is recommended is based upon average caloric intake. And typically men consume more calories than females, and as we get older, our bodies need a little bit lower on the caloric side. So just keeping that in mind, I always like to give people targets to aim for. All right. Now, though kale is very healthy, there are some individuals who may not want to have an abundance of kale. They may want to keep kale as a smaller component of their diet. And Susan was going to talk about that for a moment.
Yeah, so there are a few certain circumstances where people would want to limit their kale intake. And one would be if you have a gastrointestinal disorder called irritable bowel syndrome, and it could be personally that you have that causes more issues, but it all depends on the person. Also, folks who are taking blood thinners, in more specifically Coumadin, would need to moderate their intake of kale, which is a plant high in vitamin K. Folks that have a certain type or have had a history of calcium oxalate kidney stones may have to limit or not eat high amounts of kale. And the one thing that they do find is that folks that kale does not interfere with normal thyroid function.
Very good, thank you. So if those situations do not apply to you, please enjoy kale and enjoy it to your heart's content. Now, some other general facts about kale is that kale's growing season is mid-winter to early spring. So right now is not peak kale season. During the peak season, the peak growing season, that the kale is usually a little bit more sweeter, a little more tender than at other times during the year. And there's a variety of kales out there. Sometimes people tell me, I tried kale and I just didn't like it. And I say, you know what, we need to look and see what kind of kale they're eating. There are about 3 types of categories of kale. I have some of them on this platter here. I have some baby kale, and baby kale is typically more tender and less bitter, and people usually enjoy it more. There is another type that is more of an ornamental type of kale, and that type of kale often has a milder flavor and often used in salads. And the other thing to take into consideration is this: if you are new to kale and you maybe had it once and you went, ooh, it was a little too bitter, or I didn't really like it because I'm used to eating iceberg salads or something like that, and we need to kind of shift over to a healthier eating style, that sometimes mixing, starting with a little bit of the kale and gradually increasing it in our salads, can be a really good idea, really good way to do it. And then there's a type of kale called Dinosaur Kale as well. So you can see a variety in the stores, and if you have had one that you do not prefer, try again. And there's kale mixes and green mixes. How many people have had some of those different mixed greens where they have some spinach, some kale? Absolutely, that's a really good idea as well. So when you purchase kale at the store, you want to look for kale that is firm and that's moist and that has a nice color to it. Some of the kale that you buy sometimes will have leaves that are more yellow. These are probably a little bit more bitter. These, a lot of times I just toss. So just to understand that can be a cause of the kale tasting a little bit more bitter as well. Typically, we would want to store our kale in a container, airtight container, and then it will keep for about 5 days or so. And if we have it for longer than the 5 days, again, the taste can be a little bit different. It can just taste a little bit more bitter. So again, if we can have it when it's fresher, is going to be probably our best option. Well, enough about the general information. Now let's start with some of the fun and the cooking of the kale. So what I am going to start with now is a kale and quinoa, like a saute that this gentleman had talked about as well. And what I'm going to do here, and I provided the recipes for all of you as well. Before I start, just a word about quinoa. How many people like quinoa? How many people eat quinoa? Wonderful, wonderful. Quinoa is extremely healthy. A couple of the components about quinoa. Quinoa is high in protein, and it's a plant source that's high in protein. And that's more unusual. Then it has fiber, very beneficial. We had our little joke about fiber, and that will help with all of the positive health benefits of the fiber. And then thirdly, one of the benefits of quinoa is that it is gluten-free. So a lot of individuals who are having issues with gluten or wheat allergies, quinoa would be a really good item for them. So what we're going to start with here is a little bit of the extra virgin olive oil. And when we talk about the updated food guidelines, that what we want to minimize is the saturated fat. There's healthy oils, the canola oil, the olive oil, those are some of the best choices. So in our pot, we want to add a little bit of the olive oil. And then what we're going to do, I'm going to let this heat up for a second. We're going to add some onions. Again, health properties are associated with onions. I chopped them ahead of time so I didn't cry in front of all of you. Kind of stir it up there a little bit. Can you start to smell the onions? Yes. Very good. Okay. When I was growing up, there was a song, I don't know if any of you ever heard it, the I Love Onions song. No? No? I'm not going to sing it for you, don't worry. Everybody would run out the door. Okay, so we saute the onions. I'm going to turn this up a little higher. And one of the things about quinoa is that sometimes people don't cook it because they don't know how to. One of the easiest ways to cook quinoa, and the way that I like to do it, is in a rice cooker. And in the rice cooker, you can cook the quinoa with the ratio of 1 part quinoa, 2 parts water. And you just put it in the rice cooker and you press start, and it will cook it to perfection there. I'm going to go ahead and add in the garlic. Again, very, very healthy. Now, my favorite way to use garlic is fresh. And I know that oftentimes people will, even in my home, sometimes will use the garlic powder or the garlic that you buy pre-chopped. And I think that one of the reasons that is because people look at this and they go, oh, that's a lot of work. Does anybody look at this and say that's a lot of work? Okay. Well, let me tell you one of the gadgets that I just recently got. Can you smell this? Doesn't it smell good? Okay. It's good and it's healthy. I actually got this from Pampered Chef. I absolutely love it. You put the clove of garlic in and you do not have to take the peel off. It makes it extremely easy. And the thing about garlic is it is healthy. And my preferred form is in the clove like this. And I'm going to go ahead and add the kale now. Is that when you are chopping or using your garlic, that you want to let it set for about 10 minutes after you, use a device like this or chop it. Has anyone heard that before? Yes and no. And now one of the reasons for that is that there is a component in garlic that is extremely healthy, and it's called allicin. And it requires about 10 minutes or so for the enzymes to work effectively. So if you're going to cook with it, you want to let it rest for about 10 minutes. And since I want all of you to be healthy here, I did that ahead of time, and I allowed it to rest. So with this saute, I have the olive oil, I have the onions, the garlic, I added in some of the wonderful kale, and now I'm adding in some of the quinoa. So this is going to add some protein, and it's going to add some fiber to it, and it is going to taste delicious. So what we're going to do is we're going to have Erica and Susan pass out a sample to all of you of this item here. Now I will tell you that just like this gentleman said over here, is as I was preparing this, I thought, you know what? You know what would be good in this? Some sauteed red pepper, or yellow pepper, or orange pepper, or as this gentleman said, and I thought about that as well, something like mushrooms. So there's a lot of different varieties that you can add to make this and to enjoy this in your own home. Now, one of the things I want to mention is that I did not add any salt to this. So it is a low sodium food. And I know a lot of individuals, they like salt. Sometimes they don't even taste the food before they add the salt to it, and we want to be kind of cautious of that. And I often say that desiring sodium is really a learned taste, and that we can, what? We can retrain our taste buds. Absolutely. So we want to look at that. You could sprinkle some pepper in this. Again, you could add some salt to it. And it looks very lovely. It's very colorful. And again, it is tasty. So let me ask all of you, what do you think about that? Does anybody have a comment about? Yeah, good. It's good. It's good. Okay, very good. And again, that just took me a couple minutes to prepare, and it was a very, very healthy item to enjoy. Okay, now we're going to switch a little bit here, and we're going to go to our next food item. Oh, one of the things that I wanted to talk about, or have actually Susan talk about, thank you, Erica, is in regards to the idea of the quinoa and the washing of quinoa. So Susan? Thank you, she says. Kathy says, yes. What is this about quinoa?
Yes, so the question has always been, do I wash it? Do I rinse it before I cook it or not?
It's so thin and so little.
It's extremely difficult, yes. So the purpose of rinsing the quinoa is to get rid of, they have a little kind of a little coating on them to protect against pests. So it's saponin, so it's kind of like soap. So to get rid of the bitterness, it's not harmful for us at all, but if the quinoa tastes a little bit bitter, it's good to rinse. So if you just get a colander, a really fine mesh colander, run it under the water a few times, and once the water runs clear, then it's ready to go.
You could use a tea strainer, couldn't you? Because I have regular colanders,
Yes,
but they're too
you can
big.
use a you can use a tea strainer.
Yeah,
Yep. So.
Yes, always questions about things. And that's what we want. We want to really look into things. Now, I was doing some research about this as well, and there is some debate about, like Susan said, do we really need to do it? It's not necessarily for health, it's more for taste. And some of the quinoas that you buy, they will say pre-rinsed on them. And so those would be items that you wouldn't need to be concerned about rinsing. And actually, when I was doing my research, that sometimes what they say, it's not technically a water rinse, but it's an abrasive process that helps to get this excess coating on the exterior off of the quinoa.
And cold water is better than hot water?
This cold water would be good, yes, very, very good. All right, the next item that I wanted to prepare for all of you is a smoothie. And the thing about smoothies is smoothies can be healthy and smoothies can be maybe less than healthy, depending upon the ingredients that you put into your smoothie. Now, how many of you like to have smoothies? Okay, very good. And they can have a definite purpose. That if we are busy, we're on the go, having a smoothie can be a good idea. It's a way to get some nutrients in our bodies that sometimes people wouldn't have otherwise. We're getting fluids, that's really good. But again, what is it that we're putting into the smoothie really does make a difference. And I am going to make a sample here for all of you. And what I want to say about this smoothie, as well as that sauteed kale that I just made, and then our final item, is the idea of make it your own. That was something that registered dietitian Margaret Brown always said, make it your own. That if I put an item into the smoothie and you say, you know what, I really don't care for strawberries, or I don't like Greek yogurt, first of all, try it. But if you really don't, use something else. Don't let that stop you from having something that is very healthy. Need to plug this in just a moment. All right. Okay, so in this recipe here, what we're going to do is we need some liquid. So varieties of liquid that we can add to a smoothie, and the nutrient content will vary significantly based upon this. Now, I am choosing today to use an unsweetened soy milk, which is something that I enjoy. One of the things that I have found throughout working with the community is that there is a little bit of misunderstanding about the different types of milks. And let me tell you, there are a lot of different types of milks available. Who thought? Who thought? I mean, it used to just be the dairy. It was the whole 2%, 1%. And Susan today actually ran over to the store and bought this, and she's like, oh my goodness, the cashew milks and all the different blends, and they are out there. But do you know the best way to determine the quality and the desirability of one of these products? Unsweetened is good, but how do we know? Read the labels. Read the labels. So often we just put something in our body and we don't even look at what we're putting in our body. And so we want to read the food labels. One of the big differences that almond milks and soy milks have is a difference in protein. The almond milk is going to be very, very low in protein. A cup of this almond milk here has only, well, less than 1 gram of protein. And the soy milk here has 7 grams of protein. So it's pretty equivalent to a cow's milk. So that's a benefit. Now, what we're going to do here is I'm going to pour in this milk. And again, depending on how thick you like your smoothies, you're going to have a little variety there. One of the other items that you could use instead of one of these milks would be a juice. Now, again, we have to be careful with juice because some of them have a lot of added sugar. One of the juices that I like to make and that I've used in smoothie recipes before, and some of you may have tried, is pomegranate juice. So that would be something that we may want to use. So I put into my blender here some of the soy milk, and then I am going to add some of the Greek yogurt. Now, let me tell you, I am a big Greek yogurt fan, and there's a couple reasons why. Greek yogurt has more protein than a standard type of yogurt. Secondly, that when we talk about the sugars in our diets, and the guidelines, the dietary guidelines said that most of us are consuming way too much added sugars. Now, when we talk about added sugars, there's some health negativities that can happen if we have too much of the added sugars. And so the recommendation is to decrease those. However, one of the things we see about milk products such as milk and yogurt is that they contain lactose, and that is milk sugar. And as we teach our diabetic self-management classes, lactose is a carbohydrate. It's a simple carbohydrate that has what effect on the blood sugar? It's going to make it go up. Now, Greek yogurt, as compared to a standard yogurt, is going to have less lactose. So it will give you typically a better blood sugar response than a regular yogurt. But the thing is, again, we have to look at the label that there's the yogurts that have the full sugar, the reduced sugar, the sugar-free, using a artificial sugar sweetener, or there's the plain. And typically I eat the plain. I've retrained my taste buds for that. But today I am using a vanilla blend of the Greek yogurt. So I'm going to put that into the blender here. And how many people consume yogurt on a regular basis? Okay, and there are health benefits again with yogurt. So I'm going to put some in there. Alrighty, and then I am going to add some fruit to it. Now again, make it your own. What I'm going to add here today is I'm going to add some banana. And I'm going to add some berries. Now, berries are very beneficial because they have the antioxidants in them. And those are good for health. So I'm going to add those in there. And then I'm going to add some of our kale. All hail kale, okay? So we're going to put some of that in there. And again, if this is something new to you, you may want to start out with less kale and then add more. And the kale, you're really not going to taste it, but you're going to get all those benefits of having it in there. And the reason that I like the different berries along with the Greek yogurt is that we're going to get a product that has fiber and protein in it. And fiber and protein are going to be very beneficial to keep us fuller for longer. And that's really what we want. So I'm going to try to blend this up here. And I'm going to give it a little stir. And the ladies are going to go ahead and pass out this smoothie to all of you.
Notice this is a different color.
It is a different color a little bit, yes. And then if you like, you can add some ice to it. Again, it's due to your preference. Okay. And then
She likes the pink one better.
she likes the pink one better. And let me tell you the reason that this one is a little bit different color is that I tried some variety. You know, we say that our plates should look like a rainbow. It should look like a box of crayons. We want lots of different colors. So in the smoothie that we passed out, it had not only strawberries and the berry blend that I used in here, but I also used a tropical blend. So this one contains mangoes and pineapple, and that's why it's a little bit more yellow than the pink here. But again, we are getting a food that is very nutritious. It has the protein, it has the fiber in it, and it has a lot of nutrients in there. What do you think? It's good?
Has this been made with almond
No,
milk?
this does have the dairy in it. No, it doesn't have the almond milk in it.
Thank you.
And one of the things that can be done is that you can make these up in advance, and you can actually freeze them and then pull them out of the freezer when they get softer, or pull them out of the freezer and then kind of reblend them for later. So we want to take away all the barriers for eating healthy there. Okay, and actually what we do is when we have bananas in our house that are starting to turn, yes, absolutely, smart lady here, I cut them up and I freeze them. And then I just put those in. So again, you can use a variety of fruits. You can use a variety of different types of yogurt. And you can use a variety of your liquid. So again, making it something that you would like to have. Okay, so I'm going to set this over here. So now, does anybody else have anything interesting that they typically put in their smoothie? Avocado. Wonderful. I love that. Avocados are very healthy. They have some fiber in them, and they have healthy fat. So they can be very good. The other thing that, oh, yes. Protein powder. I was going to say protein powders, and protein powders come in a wide variety. They can be unflavored. They can be vanilla. They can be chocolate types of things. So yes, I like that. Anybody else put anything else into their smoothies? Yes.
Cinnamon.
Oh, cinnamon. Very good. I like that. And what kind of smoothie do you use that you add cinnamon to? Whatever smoothie, you just add the cinnamon. Okay, very, very good. Anything else? Yes? Turmeric, okay, very good. Decreases inflammation.
It doesn't have any taste.
And it doesn't have any taste. Very, very good. And then, yes?
I'd put algae.
Algae, okay. I remember you do an interesting shake with that, yes. And the other things that I heard somebody say is things like the ground flaxseed or the chia seed. And again, that can add some extra fiber. Oats, dry oats, absolutely. So lots and lots of ideas here. Okay, the last item that I am going to prepare for all of you today is a salad. And okay, the salad that I'm making is one of my new favorites. And I tell you this, it's so funny. I feel addicted to this salad. I absolutely love this salad. And it has a combination of different food items in it that have nutrients. And we're going to talk about at the end what we could, again, add and change to make it more of a meal versus a side. So what we want to do is we want to start out with kale, of course, since it's a kale salad. So I'm going to put some kale into my bowl here. And then what we're going to do is chop an apple and put apples. Whoops. I'm going to put an apple in this. And how many of you have ever added things like apples to your salads? Very, very good. Okay. You know what they say about apples, right? Okay. Apple a day. Okay. And again, little gadgets like this, I love them because it makes it so much easier. Now, I'm using my fingers because I'm not going to have any of you guys eat this, even though I have washed my hands. And so one of the things that you noticed that I did possibly with this apple is, did I use a peeler? No. I want to make sure that I clean the exterior well, but then if I leave the skin on, what am I getting? Fiber. Absolutely. And again, that's going to give us all those wonderful health benefits. So we add some of the apple to the salad. And then what we want to do is add, and I will tell you that you can use any type of apple. I tend to use the Granny Smith in this. I think that the flavors just seems appropriate to me. And then I add some cranberries. Again, cranberries are another food, brightly colored, very healthy. So I'm going to add some cranberries in there. I've also done this with raisins. That's another option there. And then feta cheese. Now, one thing about feta is that, absolutely salty, she said. It does have sodium in it. Now, I will tell you that sodium is something that many of us need to be aware of, especially if we have issues with blood pressure. And I think that the reference is that above the age of 65, more women than men have issues with blood pressure. It's close to 70% of females over the age of 65 have blood pressure issues. And for men, it's actually a little bit less. It's about 63% or so, and that's from the Center for Disease Control. So a lot of us do need to watch the sodium. However, just because one item has sodium in it, the kale, low sodium. The apple, low sodium. The cranberries, low sodium. I'm going to put some nuts in here, unsalted. The salad dressing that I'm going to use, low sodium. So when we want to look at our food, we really want to look at everything in relation to each other. And sometimes we can make a switch. And sometimes we can use less of a certain food. So just something to kind of think about there. Now, one of the things that on this recipe that I had written down was the idea of using a reduced fat feta. Now, feta really comes in 3 different versions. We have the full fat feta, we have the reduced fat feta, and we have the fat-free feta. And it used to be, long time ago, decade ago or so, that we thought that all fat was kind of equivalent. We know that's no longer the case. That there are some fats that are beneficial to us, like the what? Avocado that she talked about. And some fats are going to be potentially hazardous on our health. Now, the type of fat that we want to limit, we don't have to totally avoid it, but we want to limit it is what type of fat? Saturated fat, absolutely. And what would be the sources of saturated fat? Cheese, absolutely. The high-fat animal products. So things like pepperoni and sausage and ribs, those things are going to be, and cheese and cream, those things are going to be higher in saturated fats. Those are the types of fats, especially for individuals who they have gone to their doctor and the doctor said, your LDL cholesterol is too high. The LDL, that's the low-density lipoprotein, and when the low-density lipoprotein is high, we tend to get fatty buildups in our blood vessels. So this little display here, I'm not sure if you can all see it, it kind of shows a progression of fat buildup on the blood vessels. So if somebody has had a history of eating high fat, high saturated fat types of foods, that they potentially could have higher LDL levels, and potentially they could have more fat lining the interior of their blood vessels. And this is a negative because, again, in today's society, that we have a lot of individuals who have cardiovascular disease, and this can be part of it. So one of the things that we talk about, Susan and I, when we do individual medical nutrition therapy here, is that we may talk about the sources of fat in your diet. So it doesn't mean you need to remove all the fat. It just means making that switch again. And so decreasing the saturated fats and the trans fats, and increasing the fiber. Again, fiber. Fiber is going to be very beneficial. So, back to the salad and the cheese. Okay, so using a reduced fat feta cheese is what we did here. So I poured in a little bit of that, and then I added some nuts. And just like fruits are different, that an orange is positive in the nutrients that it contains, and berries are positives, and peaches are positive. Everything has a slightly different nutritional makeup. And so nuts are the same way. So I'll have people say, what's the healthiest nuts? And the thing is that I like to do a wide variety. Sometimes I do almonds, sometimes I do walnuts, sometimes I do macadamia nuts, different nuts. And again, you're going to get a better variety. Now, these are unsalted, again, so it kind of helps to balance out the higher sodium content of the cheese there. And lastly, we want to put on a dressing. Now, dressings can vary significantly, as a lot of you have noticed if you're food label readers. I have found one that I absolutely love, and I don't think I'm the only one. There's several of us here, and this one is an organic fat-free coconut mango dressing, and it goes very, very nicely with this healthy salad that we're eating. So I'm going to pour some on here and toss it, and I'm going to have our ladies pass out a sample to each of you of the salad, the kale fruity salad there. And so it's very colorful, it's very flavorful, and as I said, this is something that I really, really enjoy. Now, there are a lot of variations that you could do with this. To make this a meal, you may consider adding something like the quinoa. That's where you're going to get your complex carbohydrates from, and that's beneficial. You could add some cold chopped chicken breast, and you would get your protein that way. So you could make this a meal, or you could make this more of a side type of item there. Now, one of the things I hear people talk about sometimes is the idea of traveling. And if someone's going out of town for the weekend or the day, if they're going up to Flagstaff to get out of this heat, I often hear, the barrier, the challenge of eating out. I don't know what to eat. Well, there are such things as these little shakers. And you can actually make your salad in advance, have the salad dressing separately, and then when you're ready, you put the salad dressing in and you shake it. So even if you're gone for a day trip, you still can have something healthy to eat. So I just want to challenge you all with that, is that we want to look at what is it that prevents us from eating as healthy as we want. Because I am going to assume that because you all are here, that you value your health. Is that true? Absolutely. So we want to do those things that we can to improve our health, and part of that is looking at food as functional. What will this food do in my body? What are the components of it? And as I am eating this, and as all of you are spooning or using your fork to consume that, the idea of, am I scooping in, or am I taking a bite of health, or am I putting havoc in my body? Am I putting something in my body that is going to potentially clog my blood vessels, that potentially will cause inflammation in my body, that potentially will, after I eat it, I won't feel good physically and mentally, and I'll say, why did I eat that? Why did I eat that hamburger and fries or that pizza? When very quickly we can see that you can make something that is very healthy. So what is your appraisal? What do you think of that salad? Excellent. Very good. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Is there anything else any of you can think of that you would possibly add to this salad if you were making it?
I'd add peanuts because I have an allergy to nuts.
Okay. So
I'd add sunflower seeds.
Sunflower seeds. I have made this before with sunflower seeds. Yes, absolutely.
Grated carrots.
Grated carrots. I love that. Very good idea, Kathy. Yes, that would be fabulous. Avocado, yes.
Hard-boiled eggs.
Hard-boiled eggs. Very good. And again, if you haven't heard the update, again, from the food guide, is that eggs are back on the table.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, absolutely. It's not so much the cholesterol, the dietary cholesterol that's raising our cholesterol. It's what? Saturated fat. It's the saturated fat. And Susan, the reason I keep pointing to her is that she was over at one of our beautiful Sun Health facilities, Grandview Terrace, yesterday, talking to our employees, because we value our employees about their health and the new dietary guidelines. So, well, I thank you all for coming today. I hope that you got some ideas of different things that you can use kale for. And again, lots of ideas out there on the internet and recipes, and you can use it for a wide variety of things, but it is very beneficial, and I hope that you start to make kale more of a permanent part of your diet. Thank you all for coming.
The Sun Health Center for Health and Wellbeing offers a variety of informative classes, one-on-one consultations, and valuable memberships. To find out more about our unique services, contact us today at 623-832-WELL. That's 623-832-9355, or visit us online at sunhealthwellbeing.org.